there we go, is the tool called Adobe Spark, which is actually 3 different tools all in one, and all of your students already have access. They don't have to install anything, they don't have to do anything, and as teachers, you also already have access. Now, technically, in fact, everybody has access because there is a free version that everybody can use. But as a school district, we all educators can get a free account with Adobe Spark, and our technologists already worked that out for everybody. So you already have what you need to get started with Adobe Spark right away.
And is it in our portal, or is it
I'll let you know. It's not in your portal. So you'll see as we go through the presentation how we do that.
Okay.
And it's actually part of a much bigger suite of tools called the Adobe Creative Cloud that you also have access to. However, many of the other tools in that larger suite of tools are actually software packages that you have access to completely for free, but they have to be downloaded onto an actual computer. So they can't be used from a Chromebook. Students would have to have access to a computer. So the ones that I focus my training on are the Adobe Spark tools because they're web-based and all students can access them regardless of the device they are using.
I have the Creative Cloud and I didn't realize this was part of that because I use it for the Photoshop.
Exactly. So Adobe Creative
now.
Cloud has web-based, app-based, and desktop-based programs. And this is one of the web-based programs.
Awesome.
So Adobe Spark, as I had said before, actually comprises like 3 different tools. One is called Post, one is called Video, and one is called Page. So we will be looking at all 3 today. And the slide deck includes links to resources with more samples and easy templates that you or your students could use. One of the things I really like about it is that it is collaborative, although it is not collaborative to the degree that Google tools are, in the sense that 2 students cannot be working on the same project at the exact same time. They can share it with each other and they can, you know, one student can work on it at one period of time and the other student can log in later and then see what's been done and do some additional editing, but they can't both be on it at the same time. But it does have a collaborative option where students could work together on something using these tools. It's web-based, which is not only easy to access for our learners, but it also means it's going to be really easy for them to share because ultimately they'll be able to just get a link when they're done and give it to you. And that's going to be really helpful. Spark Post is designed to share, originally it's designed to share via social media, but you don't have to do that. It's just that the templates are set up to be really successful in terms of the layout, the size, and the design for sharing instantly on things like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook for older people, you know, and so on. It also creates things called flyers, and it's basically a combination of graphics with images and then text. I know Maria is a language teacher, and so as a language teacher, this is a great tool for our novice learners because it really brings it down to the level of language that the learners can comfortably and successfully produce independently, because the focus is on communicating your message with a few well-selected words and phrases and then images. So they see right away that there's no expectation to begin writing paragraphs with that tool. So that's Adobe Spark Post. Adobe Spark Video allows them to, through the web, very easily put together a video that can have any combination of images, videos that the student might have on their device, and they can add transitions, voiceover narration, background music, and so on. If the student is using a mobile device, Adobe Spark Video only works on iOS devices. They do not yet have an app for Android devices. And then Spark Page is something where learners are going to have the opportunity and the tools necessary to create a single page website in order to pull together everything they've learned about a topic and do a lot more kind of expository writing, and they can include images, links to media, video. There's a few different kind of layout options in order to make it a very attractive site. They can link to other websites, but it's a single page website. So this is better for projects that represent kind of accumulation of all of the, or culmination rather, of all the work they've been doing on a topic or series of topics over a long period of time. And now it's their job to organize, synthesize that information, organize it, and share it in a way that kind of reflects a real world way of sharing that content, because they're going to create a simple web page for all their content. So we're going to take these tools one at a time. We're going to look at post, then we'll look at video, and then we'll look at page. And remember, again, if you copy out the link from the chat, you do have access to this exact same slide deck. So when I say click on this link and so on, everything in there is clickable for you as well, so that it will take you to the same place after this session in case you need to review. There's no expectation that you remember everything we say here today, for example, and so on. So as I had alluded to earlier, Adobe Spark Post is intended to be images, singular or plural, and a few words or phrases. There's all kinds of layouts, and that's one of the ways that Adobe Spark makes it possible for people with very little experience and very little design experience to successfully create something in not too long a time, to be honest. So you can see here, I just grabbed this from the Adobe Spark page when you first log in, and it kind of shows you a variety of kinds of layouts. So I'm looking at the one in the second row, all the way on the right-hand side. This has a few more words and phrases. There's, there's 4 or 5 different little circles and a few words under each, and so on. And any of these templates you find, or your student finds, they can then borrow the template and they can change literally everything about it. And you'll see an example of that in just a moment, in order to repurpose it for the information they want to share. Oops. The way you get started with Adobe Spark Post is to, well, actually, I'm going to change out that link because you can actually go to spark.adobe.com. But the reason I have you going here, a Creative Cloud, is in order for, especially for teachers, if you want to get access to the full suite, it can be better to start with the actual Creative Cloud website and then sign in using Google and your San Juan email and password. There is also a site called spark.adobe.com, and that will take you to Adobe Spark, and students should also be able to just sign in with Google right there and use their San Juan student email addresses, and they'll be right in, because it's web-based. They don't need to download anything to use Adobe Spark. But this will, for you, this will set you up from the get-go to have access to every tool in the Creative Cloud suite. It will ask, after you put in your San Juan email, it will ask you, is this an Adobe ID or an Enterprise ID? You need to choose Enterprise. And then after it signs you in, it goes to a website for all of Creative Cloud, and it's got tabs on the top for whether you're doing desktop apps, mobile, or web. Choose apps and then choose web. And then you can choose Adobe Spark. So I'm going to show you that really quickly. Sorry, I keep having to move my tools out of the way every time I open anything. So if you go to creativecloud.adobe.com, and I haven't been here in a while, so it'll probably require me to sign in again, because I do Adobe Spark a lot, but I don't go to the whole Creative Cloud suite as often. So I'm going to sign in. Whoops, hold on a second. My tools are in the way again. Okay, sign in with Google. And I'm going to choose my San Juan account. It is an Enterprise ID. And then once this loads, it's going to load any second now. Here we go. You'll see again, you have these instructions on the slide deck, but I had said click on apps. And then when that page loads, click on web. And then when you get to web, you see Adobe Spark. Your students should just be able to go to spark.adobe.com. But again, like I said, and just to be sure you know how much you have access to, I wanted you to be sure to see what that process looks like from the very beginning if you do want to look at any of the other tools. Now going back here. Okay, hold on. And then in this slide deck, I actually have some sample posts, and this is a clickable image. So if you click on the image, it will take you right out to a blog from Adobe Spark. And this blog actually looks at info, like some infographics focused on women and women who have accomplished amazing and interesting and awesome things in the course of their lifetimes. And so they show you a few different posts and kind of what a post could look like, because each of these graphics is just a post. Most of them have one image and then some words. And then you'll notice there's a button that says, hey, I want to create my own from this template. I like that one. I want to use that for something else. And then you have this one, which is also a post. And then you can create from template. This is the one I put into the slide deck. And then you can borrow that template. And then it goes on to the rest of the blog and so on. So these are all just examples of Adobe Spark posts, but they're all on a very specific theme. There's obviously more examples and any number of themes that these could be done with. So there's all kinds of ways. And you see this one, I mean, the word ideas is probably an image file, but it actually just looks like it's just words here, right? Ideas, put your ideas out there, and so on. So it's a combination of text and images that you can edit. Okay. And then, sorry about that. This actually, there we go. The way you get started is once you go through that process I had mentioned for opening up Adobe Spark, you'll actually see a plus symbol at the top of the page. You click on that, and then it brings you often to a screen like this that reminds you of what it is you're about to do. So you hit Create Post, and then you choose your layout or style. Now you'll notice when you get here, even though you chose Adobe Spark Post, it will give you layouts that include web page, video, or graphics. So remember, there are 3 products in Adobe Spark: Adobe Spark Post, Adobe Spark Page, and Adobe Spark Site. I mean, Adobe, sorry, yeah. And so they actually have them all here. If you're trying to do the post that's just a few words or phrases, you have to choose a layout that says graphic. Okay. And then once you choose that, you can then edit it any way you'd like. So I'm going to play this short video. It has no sound, and you're going to see me editing one of their graphics in real time. I grabbed, in fact, let me get this started. I grabbed this template, which was cherry berry milkshake. And then you can see I'm fiddling with some of the color schemes very easily. So take a look at what my tools are doing on the right, where I'm changing some of the color schemes. Then I click on where the text was, and I'm going to change the words. Okay. I'm going to click on the image. I'm going to go over in order to change the icon. So I'm going to change to a new image. And there's actually free photos that you can search for. And it brings up a search bar where you can actually search for photos.
Are we able to put our own images in there, and are they able to write on those also?
I believe you can upload an image, yes. And then anything can be written on. That's kind of the point of Adobe Spark Post.
Great. So even a PDF, I could put a PDF in there and they can write on it.
I don't know if you could do that because PDFs technically are not image files. So you would have to like take a screenshot of it.
Capture. Okay.
Yeah. If you take a screenshot, it then becomes an image file, and then save that.
Great. Okay.
The other thing to consider for your students, if your students are doing it, they have to know where their saved things are on Chromebooks, which they can save images to their Chromebooks. It's just not something they do all the time.
But we could save, so I could create a lesson in here and save it and then link it to Google Classroom, and then they could come right to it, right?
Yeah, in theory, but in order for them to be able to edit the same template you created, you'd actually have to individually share it with each student.
Right. So I could do that though. And then when they do their work, it saves under their account, right? So they could log in.
Yes, I don't know if, I feel like you'd have to create new versions for each student, because if you create one document, when you share it with different people, they're all going to be editing it at the same time.
I get that. So if I uploaded it for each person though, and they were working, when they're
You'd have to
working,
upload a different copy of it for each person. You'd have to
perfect.
like save it 36 times, once for each name of student.
Yeah, and I'd want them to change it to be creative, but when they're working on their projects, they can, you know how they said that they couldn't work on it at the same time? If they're
Yeah.
saving their project and working on it, then I could come in later and give
Yes,
them
exactly.
comments on
Because
it.
it's you've added them, and you'll see later in this session how you share it with someone in that way.
Great.
So yes, absolutely.
And then it saves in their account, so no matter what Chromebook
Yep.
they log in, they've got it. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Because it's a completely web-based tool. So you're welcome to share this video with them, because it kind of shows like me clicking through the different parts of it and adding text and changing things. It's not very long, actually. It includes my typos. It's already almost done.
Hey, it's real world.
Yeah, exactly. It shows me even going through some things like, I don't like that. I don't like any of that. You know, like
Yeah,
let's
that's
change
good.
that again. I don't like that. But there we go. And then it's done. So essentially you're going to use that toolbar on your right to edit content as well as add content. And editing can include changing out the images. These graphics like clip art like things are often called icons. It can include changing out the icons, and it as well as adding or changing any existing text. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out why I can't like escape out of the full screen view. There we go. So that is a glimpse of what it looks like to edit one of those. And hey, we're on the sharing part. So here, there are actually several ways to do it, but they all result in the same basic process. The difference is that there's like 3 different ways to call up the sharing menu so that you can invite people and put in their email addresses. This does not have a direct connection to Google Classroom, unfortunately. It would be awesome if they actually had a thing that was like, make each student a copy and they would all get it. That would be amazing. So you can hit publish when you're done working at that particular moment, and then choose invite. Oh, publish when you're finished rather, or sharing, you're going to invite. And then you do have to put in an email address. So you'd have to look up your kids' email addresses. Or from the project page, which is when you go back to spark.adobe.com, it has your existing projects that you're working on. If you click on the 3 dots, you get an option to invite people. Again, so you just have all these different ways, but the key is you're trying to get to the place somewhere where it lets you invite others to that same document. You personally might find it easier for the type of task you were just talking about. If you wanted to provide a template on which they were going to write, as opposed to giving them free rein to design, you actually might prefer using the Google Slides Edit Master function, because then you can push it out in Google Classroom with make a copy for each student.
And
so
I do that already, yeah.
Yeah, so that might be easier, but this has different kinds of tools and a different look and feel, and it can be easier to make it look more authentic in terms of make it look like something they run across when they're browsing their social media already. Just because of the way it's designed. Like it's designed to create the kinds of things we're all seeing on our social media feeds. So it does give that layer of authenticity.
I feel this is so much more creative. It's not so one and done. So
I really like it.
I really like it.
I really like it. And you might decide whether, like, do you want it, and you might, like, do you want to create the baseline template for them to keep working on, or do you want to just give them instructions to get there and then have them publish so that they can share the link with you?
Right.
You just decide what works for you. I also gave you links for other ideas, like their Instagram story templates, as well as their the ideas for using it to create student created infographics, which could be fabulous for like synthesizing information across historical concepts or science, and so on. Like it could be really good for that. If students create the infographics, it's kind of hard for everything to just be, you know, it's not as easy to just Google and make, because they actually have to design the whole thing and figure out the wording they need. And so
we're doing this in groups with GLAD strategies that we've been doing. So I already have a couple ways that I know I can utilize this, because we were doing something similar,
right?
Trying to do it through Google Classroom, and we were limited. So I think it will really open up that creativity where they can create ads or
I love it.
story
Yes.
plots or change the ending, and it's not going to be everybody's looking the same.
Yeah, I love it. I really like it. And I've been trying to train teachers on it like for almost 2 years now. So I'm still trying to build up like, come on, this is a great tool, but it's just, there, and now, of course, with what happened now, it's a great tool for right now, but that's on top of a whole bunch of there's a whole mountain people have to climb before they can get to the point where they feel like they can add that one more thing without it just breaking them.
Exactly.
And I totally understand that. So I think there is a place for this tool. There's a reason why I waited until the secondary schools were in their 3rd week of distance teaching before I even started introducing these extra tools.
Right.
And then I'm repeating this whole series of stuff I did this week. I'm repeating it next week when elementary is in their 2nd week of teaching. So if you have colleagues that you think might like it, but just didn't feel like they could do it today, this recording will be in the Distance Learning Hub on the technology page. But I am also repeating every training from this week. I'm doing them all next week.
Excellent. I might be popping into a few more.
There you go. Just because I looked at the timing and said, I don't even want to offer anything beyond kind of the baseline tools that most teachers will need to get going with distance teaching until teachers have been doing distance teaching for at least a couple of weeks and feel like they've started to hit a groove.
But I'll also tell you just a little feedback. Doing it just a hair later in the day really misses a lot of the other meetings that we already have that are set. So doing it anytime later in the day really helped make it more accessible.
Okay. And I'll share with you. Thank you. I appreciate that. The reason I picked this time, and it was probably the same thing that all of the administrators and things were thinking as well, because we know that teachers were asked to avoid having live meetings with students for a 2-hour window in the afternoon, so that kids could go pick up their breakfast and lunch.
Right.
And so I scheduled my trainings for 11:30, knowing that it would be during that 2-hour window when they wouldn't be trying to live Zoom with students.
Yep.
But then again, and then I also heard a lot of feedback that there is a slam on live Zooming with students in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So I've actually been kind of avoiding the afternoon because so many people are on Zoom with their students at that time. So I do a couple trainings first thing in the morning when the kids don't appear to be actually coming to the Zoom sessions, even if teachers will offer them.
Yeah.
Right. So I have them at like first thing in the morning and then during this 2-hour lunch window.
Yeah. I love the lunch window. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's kind of where it is, but I appreciate that feedback. And that's why we also do like there is a recording so that, and you can watch it at your own time and pause, rewind, skip past the parts where I'm being boring, So the other tool in this program is called Adobe Spark Video, and it is designed to make it really easy for people to combine images, video, text, voiceover, music, transitions into a video product. And it can be any combination of those things. It doesn't have to be all those things, right? Yeah. So this one is a sample that they have, of course, just on their site. So it's fairly well done. Although I don't think, he does voiceover.
Spending time visiting an amazing city.
So as you can see, they can already, they can do images, choose the transition that kind of does the panning. They can visit, put a text caption on the page, do a voiceover, and there's background music. And they can, again, do any combination of image and video that they can just drop into the timeline when they're creating their video.
Seeing things while you're really looking.
So that was a video already.
And experiencing cultures from
That's a video. But that city scape was a photo with just a transition on it, like a pan effect.
That's awesome.
Sorry?
For STEAM. There's so many STEAM things that people are trying to integrate the arts, but if a child does not have artistic ability,
right,
they can't do it. And this is another way to look at it.
Yes.
Really, really good.
And it actually brings in multiple parts of the acronym for STEAM, right? And so it's pretty nice. It's a nice, simple tool. So again, this slide deck, that's your resource document, is kind of designed to remind you of what the steps are and give you the screenshots of what you should expect to see while you're working. So choose a video type. So as soon as you get started with Adobe Spark Video, you choose a video type and add a title. And they do suggest a maximum length of 12 minutes. And I would agree with that. And especially at the 7th and 8th grade level, if they go on any longer, they're probably not staying on target, as far as on topic rather.
Right.
So I taught French before I did this. And so literally the novice level courses, like the years 1 and 2, it's like, you don't even know how to say enough to go beyond a minute and a half and not get yourselves in trouble. So, right. So don't do it. Pick a template for that video or not. You could choose to start from scratch with the red button at the bottom, but they give these kind of templates that are like, are you trying to promote an idea? So if you want them to do, all of a sudden, I was kind of thinking argumentative essay, but you know what I mean? Like if you want them to actually make a statement or a claim and then use the tools within Adobe Spark and their own content to help kind of make the point for why they want people to act in a certain way. Tell a story, a hero's journey template, and then a show and tell kind of template. So they can look at all those, and there's actually 2 pages of templates, as you can see on the bottom, or they can just start from scratch.
Great.
It actually will provide a quick video tutorial to help people get started. So they can watch this to kind of see what you saw in a couple of what you're seeing in the screenshots that I'm showing you, but in a video format.
Perfect.
Once they get going, they have a screen that has this, it almost looks like slide decks. And it's basically a timeline, but essentially you could almost think of it as each piece of the timeline being a slide that they can add content to. And then the Adobe Spark video will take care of bringing all of that together into a nice package. So if you picked one of the templates, it will actually give you a slide in the timeline for each piece of the template, but anything can be deleted or changed. You don't have to do what they suggest. You can move things around and so on. So when you're on any given slide, there's a plus button in order to add an image to that, add a video to that, add an icon, just like Adobe Post had. There's a record button to talk. Each slide can only have 30 seconds before it has to move to the next slide. So if you need the same background for longer than 30 seconds, just put it on the second slide as well. The scene timeline, if you note the 3 dots on, if you go to any particular slide, the 3 dots will give you access to more things that you can do. In the upper right corner, you have some additional menu tools, like if you want to get to your music, give your video a theme for kind of the overall kind of color scheme of your video and some of the kind of overarching effects of your video. And you're currently on the layout menu. And so it gives you a choice of kind of what layouts you would like to use in order to organize the types of content you're planning to put on that page from a visual standpoint. Okay. Oops. And essentially, once you're there, you can edit all of those things, the theme, the layout, the music, add text, don't add text, put a picture, drop in a video, whatever you want to do. And then when you're done, you go to the next slide, or you click the plus button to add a new slide, and you do the same process again. And then you just keep adding slides. You delete any slides you don't need. And if you realize your slides are out of order, you can just click and drag them into a new order. Then you're just going to click the share button in order to get a link to share back with the teacher. So once you're done, you can share it in that way, or you can make it collaborative by clicking on the person plus and inviting people to collaborate with you on the video.
That's awesome. This is
I like
really
it. It's a nice tool. I have seen that at least earlier this, when we first rolled out, like Adobe Spark, as I said, has been available in a free version for a long time. So I started training on it a while ago before we even had access to kind of the full account. But when we first rolled out Adobe Creative Cloud to the whole district, and the teachers automatically got access to the entire suite, what was pushed to students was Adobe Spark initially, because we only have, comparatively, if you look at our entire student population, there's really only a small percentage of them who are enrolled in classes where they needed Illustrator or Photoshop or Adobe Elements. But they actually can all get those things. The teacher just reaches out to tech services to say that their students now need to have access to those other tools.
So we can get Photoshop, then I can have Photoshop?
Yes. Yeah, that's what I was saying at the beginning. You have the entire Creative Suite.
It doesn't show it on there that you have it. It doesn't. It's not one of those free added ones. I thought I was going to have to do something different.
No. The only thing you do have to do first, if you're going to do any of the downloaded, and I've already done it, so I don't see it now. Hold on a second. Let me go to desktop. I'm trying to see if I can find, and I've already done it, so I don't think it's going to show up on mine. When you first go to Creative Cloud, in order to download the desktop apps
Okay.
to your computer, in addition to the ones you see on my screen in Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and all of those, you actually have one that says Creative Cloud. You need to download that first. It's almost like this little placeholder thing that will live on your desktop.
I have that. It's up in my very top of my bar, my toolbar by my Wi-Fi.
When you then go back to Adobe, to creativecloud.adobe.com and sign back in with your district email, with Google and your district email, go to desktop, and you should now see install buttons for any tool that you want. You can have them all. There's animation tools I'd never even heard of. Actually, most of these tools I'll have to say I haven't heard of, and I knew some of them already. You can install any tool you want.
Got it. Okay, so I think probably I could see the Photoshop. There is one install and one that's not compatible. I bet you it's based on my operating system on my computer.
Probably.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes total sense. I didn't realize that because a lot of times I want to work with the kids on, I do photography.
Yeah.
So some projects I was doing in photography, but to buy Photoshop and have it installed is a fortune. So I didn't realize I had that.
And do you have access to a computer lab for your students to use with the photography class?
Well, I have the Chromebooks, and I have, that's it. I don't, there's some.
So unfortunately, Chromebooks can't install software. So the Chromebooks are going to be limited to the web apps.
Okay.
So you would look here and look for apps, and I'm looking really closely. Edit, organize, and share your, well, that's light. But
what about iPads? Could I do it on iPads?
Yes-ish. Hold on a second. Yep, Photoshop has a mobile app.
Okay, so if I could do it on the iPads, that would work. Because what I want to do is I'm having them take the photos on their phones, then upload them, and then edit them, right? And do things with them. Because I want them to be able to do, like we're doing different types of poetry and other units, and then I wanted them to be able to go out and take their own visuals for that, and then embed that behind or draw it or,
Right. So I haven't yet had any teachers ask about how to do this specifically, but I do know that initially the students don't see like any way to get all of these other apps, but it is available to students. So I think I can't remember now. So you can try going into Creative Cloud yourself and see where it says send link. You could get that link, put it in your Google Classroom, and ask students who have iOS devices to go ahead and see if they can download the app. Hopefully they have room on their devices. They tend to have them pretty full.
Yeah, they do.
But, and see if that works. And if not, we may have to loop in Peter and Tech Services to get a reminder for the Creative Cloud apps. We know they're available to students. I just can't remember how, if Tech Services has to, add it to specific classes when teachers ask for it, just because they require installation and they aren't web-based.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so lastly, before we finish out, we're going to look at Adobe Spark page. And it's a very brief look as well, because as you can see, once you open up, their templates are pretty much the same. Like you're going to go to the right-hand side. That's where all your toolbars are going to be. It's just a different type of media in terms of the content the students are going to produce, right? So let's go here. I'm going to click the image to see a sample page. There we go. And the page, it's designed to be an easy way to have a fairly rich but single page website where students can have text, images, link out to other items on the web, embed media, and choose from a couple of different layout possibilities and so on. So this one, you can see it starts with like a banner image, and it has kind of a graceful, like pleasing way that it then scrolls down to the text. And now you can see this image is kind of coming into focus, and there's going to be, you can do a little bit like a collage of photos if that would be appropriate for your content, but then it gives way to a full screen photo, and then that gives way to more text. So it's just designed to have a very kind of pleasing flow throughout the entire thing. And this is nice where you can have a shorter text box that kind of goes up through an image, just depending on how you want to lay it out. So students can experiment with the layout options in order to create a website. And of course, if it's mostly focused on information that they're presenting with not as many images, then they can just build a website with mostly text and so on. So let me go, I'm going to close a few things. Hold on a second. Close a few things. There we go. Oops, that was silly. There we go. So essentially, it's a lot like the posts and the videos. Choose a template, add your content, hit publish, give the link to somebody so they can see it. Like it's very similar to the other two tools. Once you get started, as you can see, you have some settings. You have a way to preview your site to see how it's looking, for a visitor to the site so far. You also have a way to click a present button and go full screen. So if you have some tech savvy students who want to combine this with Screencastify, they could actually add audio and make a movie out of showing the content that they have on their website that they created. And then you have a share button in order to get the link to send it back to the teacher or others. And then you also have the ability to add a collaborator onto this site. Okay. You're going to choose a theme. And so it gives you several different kinds of themes. Now the downside, there's like an up and downside to this. All of this is intended to be very easy to use for people who don't have a lot of tech experience. The downside is by making it that easy to use, there are some things that you might find limiting, especially if you are someone who does have more tech experience. So you might find it a little more limiting in that sense. And that's true of all of Adobe Spark's projects. So click where it says add to start typing to give it a title, click to add a subtitle, and then just click the little plus to add additional content or see ways you can combine the content. And then when you click the plus, you get all of these possibilities. So we saw an example of the photo grid. We actually saw an example of the glide show where the text goes up through a full screen image. There's also split layout. You can add a video that plays within the site. You can add text, you can add photos. So your students have a lot of options. Okay. And so what it does is a glide show is a very weird way to call it. And I keep having to kind of revisit this. It gives you a way to combine text, block quotes, images, and more, but the flow is really interesting when you put that all together. So you can kind of see there's a background image from Versailles Palace. I happen to recognize this. So this is Versailles Palace in the background. It's in the gardens. And then they created this other box that has some text. It has a block quote. It has an image. And as the visitor scrolls through that, as the visitor scrolls through that, they will continue to have this garden shot in the background.
So it leaves the main page, but then on the right-hand side, it scrolls through everything.
Right or left. Like the example we saw earlier, I can't remember exactly what the picture was, but the little text box went up from the left. So
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They actually have a blog post with sample templates for post, page, and video. And again, as we saw right at the beginning, you can pick any one of those and say to start a project using that template, and then you can change anything about it. Adobe gives some self-paced courses on every product in Creative Cloud. So that's actually a lot of content. But if you, hold on, while this page, when it loaded earlier, it was these, there we go. You can kind of scroll through. This one's not showing as well as it did before, but, oops, hold on. I'm not sure, something loaded funny. But this one is Adobe Spark. Sorry, it keeps crashing and reloading. This was Adobe Spark. This one says Adobe Spark Premium, which is like branding and so on. And we have an education license, which is, I don't know if that's the same as premium or not. That's just the whole Adobe Creative Cloud. Oh, and then that's Adobe Spark again. So you or anybody actually could go into this page and take some courses to dig a little deeper into how to use the tools. And those you just have to sift through the whole Adobe Cloud because they provide courses on all of it.
And those are free to us.
They're free.
Excellent.
Yeah. And then there is a specific thing called Creative Cloud Curriculum. It's actually for use with students who are building up to a digital career. The only issue with it is as I said earlier, students have access to the full Adobe Creative Suite, but much of Adobe Creative Suite has to be downloaded onto a device other than a Chromebook. And so many of the courses in the Creative Cloud curriculum aren't going to work for them unless they have access to a device where they can, use the tools that are featured in the course for that particular digital career. So just so you know, but it is available, and there's a curriculum available for free that teachers can use in part or totally.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So any questions or anything?
No, I just want to go back and rewatch this and slowly play with everything now. But I have so many ideas, I'm going to have to write them down. Thank you. This is well worth the time today, and I
welcome.
You're doing a class for one.
No problem. It's nice to have a personalized class. We'll talk to you later.